Guys, if you didn't know already, the average Joe can get into wholesaling. Wholesaling real estate, that's the easiest way to get into real estate. We're talking with Mark Stubler today, the CEO of Joe Homebuyer, right here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You're listening to me, Kyle Stanley, once again, and we've got an awesome guest today, Mark Stubler. He is the CEO and founder of Joe Homebuyer, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. He's just helping average Joes to be able to get into real estate, get into wholesaling, because that's where he was at when he was getting into real estate. He was just tired of the corporate world and didn't, aside from having some sales skills, didn't really have a whole lot of real estate investing experience behind him. So he just jumped in with a friend and decided it was the right move for him to kind of feed that entrepreneur spirit. So if that's you, if you're listening today and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'm in a corporate job, I've got an entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm either getting into real estate or want to get into real estate, then I feel like this story is really going to help you to get motivated to do exactly what Mark is doing. But before we get into that, let's make sure that you have followed us on Instagram. That's Fearless Kyle. And then also, have you gone to our Facebook, or sorry, not our Facebook page, our website, fearlesskyle.com, and downloaded the Airbnb profit calculator? If you have not, you need to do that. It's just fearlesskyle.com right there on the homepage. You fill out your first name, last name, and email address, and boom, that calculator is sent right to you, as well as some other information that's going to help you get started in Airbnb. Easy as that. So before we get too far into that, let's get back into it with Mark Stubler, and let's talk about wholesaling real estate, how you can get started right now. All right, guys, we've got Mark Stubler, the founder, president, CEO, whatever title you want to use for the leader of Joe Homebuyer here on the show with us. Mark, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Oh, man. Thanks, Kyle, for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, before we get started and talk about your life and your path to real estate, as well as how you're helping people in the wholesaling world, I want to know, what is the most interesting, strangest, funniest, weirdest real estate investing story that you've got for us?
All right, man, you asked for it, so you're going to have to get your editor out or whatever, but this is pretty strange, up in the category of weird and a little gross. We had a seller that we were just visiting with stand up in the middle of an appointment, walk over to the corner of the room, and literally start peeing.
Wow.
In the room, not in the bathroom.
Not in the bathroom.
And get this, his first name was Dick, and we said, Dick, what are you doing? He says, I'm just peeing, just a little. And that's when we had to leave the house because it was disgusting. But that actually happened in one of our appointments. So listeners, this is the call gets way, or the dialogue gets way better from here. So, but you asked for the most interesting, and there you go. But now we've got you listening. That's for sure.
Did you feel like Ashton Kutcher was going to come out and say you got punked?
Right.
Or like,
right. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. There's some interesting ones out there, but the good thing is that we can help them. And I know you're helping a lot of people, and that is a good thing. But let's get into, first of all,
Please.
Mark, like what brought you into real estate? Where were you before real estate? Kind of give us an overview of what life was like for Mark, like right before you said yes to wholesaling and real estate.
So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, Kyle, and I appreciate the question. I was working for a fence and deck company selling products and doing really well. I worked for them for 10 years. I dabbled with an e-commerce business, a rental here and there, a rehab. Just wanted to get in the game. But like most of us, I had a great job. And I think a lot of people can relate to this anyway. I had lots of responsibilities. I had 4 kids. And actually, at the time, I had my 4th on the way. And again, life was good. I had some, luxuries, making some good money, but I just that entrepreneurial blood was not. I wasn't able to get out there and do it because I had those golden handcuffs because I was, things were comfortable. Yeah. So that's kind of what life was before I got into real estate. And my current employer at the time gave me what I refer to as the gift. They made me come in. So I had all this autonomy. I was an outside sales rep. I come and go as I please. They gave me this gift, and they brought me into the office for once a week. I had to come in for 4 to 6 hours and be an inside sales guy. And they didn't realize they were giving me this gift, but they took away my autonomy. And I know that sounds silly. People are like, well, what's the big deal? You had to come in the office once a week for 4 to 6 hours. It killed me. This idea that I could go out and meet people, make money, be autonomous with my schedule. And now I was scheduled to be in the office to cut expenses. They wanted to cut out the inside sales guy, and they wanted me to sit there and sharpen pencils for 6 hours a day,
Oh,
once a week. I couldn't do it. And that's what it took to push me over the edge. And, that energy that I had towards entrepreneurship, just it bottled up, and I made some serious changes very quickly. And that's how I got into real estate.
That's awesome. I mean, it's funny too. I mean, it sounded like the job that you had in sales was giving you that feel of being an entrepreneur, because you were out there, you were on your own, you weren't having to report necessarily to a boss
That's
every single
exactly right.
day. But then they took that away from you, even though it was just one day a week. I mean, that's enough for an entrepreneur mindset. That's enough to make you feel like, especially most entrepreneurs, I don't know about you, I use the word stubborn. Like, we're stubborn. We don't want to
That's
be
right.
told what to
That's
do.
right.
We don't want to be told when to be there, how to do it. We want to just say, okay, what's the goal? And we'll go and figure it out. So I've been there, man. I know, I know how that feels. What was did you know at that point that you were an entrepreneur, or was that kind of the moment where you're like, wow, I think I might need to look into this entrepreneur stuff?
Well, that's why I refer to it as the gift, because you would think that, that few hours isn't that big of a deal, but it opened my eyes. It instantly revealed to me, actually, you don't work for yourself. Like, no,
Yeah.
you very much have to report to somebody. That helped me realize that, okay, if I really want the upside, then I've got to take some risk. I've got to make some changes. And that's where I went pretty heavy into, all right, what is it going to take to get out on this journey? And because I was, I kind of built my lifestyle around what I was making, I had to take a few sacrifices. I put a renter in my basement. I sold some assets, put a little bit of savings in the bank. And I said, all right, what is it going to take to just get out there and do my own thing? So I researched heavily on the real estate side. And believe it or not, I actually, I knew a little bit about the e-commerce side, and I liked the idea of making money while he's sleeping, having, and I still think there's a lot of truth and validity to that. I ended up on the real estate path, but I was looking at Amazon businesses and everything. And luckily I had a good friend that it started wholesaling. A lot of listeners would know his name, Cody Hoffine.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, hey, what are you doing? And we went to lunch, and he said, look, I'm getting into wholesaling real estate, and it's game changer. And not far after that, he and I partnered up, and the last 5 years has just been an incredible journey, learning a lot, experiencing a lot, goods and bads. But yeah, that entrepreneurial energy was a part of me. I had I'm the typical, lawn care business and that sort of thing in high school, and did some fun things like that. I had to get my token amount of multi-level marketing in me, right?
I
In
feel
the
like
early
we all kind of
20s.
do.
So I had it in me, but you're right. I was working for a company, and I feel like I had that autonomy, and almost felt like I was my own owner. But that's when it all kind of surfaced that, no, there's more opportunity for me, but I've got to go out and create it. I've got to go make more of it.
That's awesome. So Cody comes to you, which, by the way, Cody's been on our show. Awesome guy. I know you both are in the same line and even partners on a few things, but Cody comes to you and says, hey, I'm getting into wholesaling. What was it that you saw about wholesaling that seemed like it was the answer for what you were going to do next in your life?
Well, I just feel fortunate to be in real estate. It's such a great industry. It's an industry that just has fantastic margins. You don't have to do a ton of deals to be, extremely profitable. So that's what was attractive to me. And I had at that time 1 or 2 rentals. I had just because I'd been making good money, and I knew that was what people did. They bought rentals occasionally and that sort of thing. And Cody was just sharing with me, hey, look, in a short amount of time, this is what I've been able to do. This is how it works. This is the type of risk. So specifically, wholesaling was, look, I've been able to make a couple $100,000 in a short order. I've been able to do it with just a handful of properties. Here's how the process works. And so it became very clear that, hey, there's a special opportunity in real estate, wholesaling specifically. There, you can make a really good return with strategic effort. You can make a really good return very quickly.
That's awesome. So what was the first step that you took? What was it, just following what Cody did, or did you go out on your own? Let's hear what that beginning steps looked like.
So I actually hired a mentor. The same mentor that Cody had at the time, Tom Kroll, and paid, whatever. I'm a big believer in investing in, yourself. This idea that uh, jumpstart your learning. And I got a mentor, and Cody was off doing his thing. I got a mentor very quickly. I started turning a profit, and it was about 4 or 5 months after I got involved that we, were hanging out again and talking about it, saying, well, why don't we just combine our talents and or talents, or maybe that's overstating it at the time. Let's combine our energy and our excitement about it, and let's go, take over the world with this, or Utah at the very least. And so that's what we did. But mine started with getting really good instruction from somebody that had done it, and I like that model. And it's not any different than why we're reading books and self-improvement, is because we can become better leaders by those that have developed as leaders, and we can learn the best practices by becoming a student of those things. And that's what I did.
That's awesome. We harp on it all the time on the show. I mean, just don't do this alone. Don't go into anything alone. I mean, I'm expanding my business in Arizona, and I'm looking for people that have been there and done that. And I grabbed hold of one guy who's over there, and we're, I'm asking him questions like, okay, is this a good place to do a deal? Is this not a good place to do a deal? And whether you're paying for it in either money or services, it's just something that has to be
That's
done, or else you're just going to make the mistakes that people made themselves. And why do that? Why not just shorten the learning curve and just get right to where you want to be? So you partner up with Tom, or you get Tom as a mentor who
Yep.
he's in Wholesaling Inc. as well. So, I mean, it's funny, like you and I were talking about right before we got on this call, that the industry, especially of wholesaling, it feels so small, like especially for those that have education systems like yourself. So
Sure.
long story short, what did Tom tell you to do, and what was the path to success? How long did the path to success take?
So he's coined a couple phrases, and I don't know. He's, we all pirate, rip off and duplicate R&D from everybody. But Tom, at least, has coined them in my mind. This idea of take massive imperfect action. That was one of the major things that I learned from him, and that was my mantra. I believe that's why I felt like it was such a good pairing of student mentor, because I, had made a living off just taking massive imperfect action. I'd been a very successful sales guy, and done some pretty good things in my marketplace in that industry, because I was always just defaulting to action. I may not have been the most polished sales guy in terms of, how I delivered a message and, whatever it be, but I was always willing to just take an extra stab at it, or swing the bat. And so that was one of the major takeaways. And I think it was such a good blend of, his mentoring and my, strength was, hey, I'm just going to get out there and try it. I'm going to get out there. I'm not going to get caught in the minutia or the little details. And that's his big way of mentoring. It's like, hey, look, if you want a business card and stationery that has your business logo, and make sure your LLC is structured exactly right on day one, he's like, that, it's just not going to work. And obviously there's some merit to those things, but that's not his mentorship is all about just get out there and get it done. Take action.
That's awesome. So we talk about that all the time too, with just taking action, because you can overanalyze everything. You can look at it, you can see what's the best way to do, what's the best way to do the marketing, what's the best way to spend my time. And at the end of the day, like, that's the stuff that ends up paralyzing you to not do anything, because you never take any action because you're so worried about it has to be the perfect action. So
that's right.
Did you have any
Well
of
said.
that going on? Where you were just like, well, what if there's a better way to do it that was paralyzing you, or did you just go for it?
Kyle, maybe it's just a blessing or for me that for some reason, maybe I'm just not that smart, but I don't get hung up in details a lot of times. Now, I'm a very analytical guy. So Cody will tell you, one of my things that I focus on in our business is, the numbers and analyzing stuff. But interestingly enough, when it comes to like getting results, I don't feel like I have to have the whole picture. When I'm working with my acquisition managers and talking about what is it going to take to get a deal done, yeah, you have to have a premise. You have to know approximately what it's worth. You have to have but it's simpler than that. You have to get out and figure out what the problems are, be a problem solver. And a lot of times, and that's why I go back to that joke, this idea of maybe I'm just not that smart. I didn't spend a ton of time trying to figure out everything. I didn't spend a ton of time feeling like I had to know the industry perfect and feeling like I had to understand exactly how title worked and exactly how the contract, what every word in the contract meant. I know those things are important. And some of you are like, your hair standing up when you hear me say that. But no, I knew enough about what the contract meant, and I knew enough about the title process. But I just knew none of that even mattered until I got a home under contract, until somebody said yes to my offer. And so, no, for whatever reason, it was a natural fit for me. I default to that. And really, that's one of the things with Joe Homebuyer, our franchise model. We really try to encourage people, obviously we provide a very structured learning experience, a very structured platform where they can get answers to the everyday, and even the, different ways to negotiate contracts and all the details. But at the end of the day, none of it replaces the importance of getting out there. The more people you talk to, I mean, our business is pretty simple. You send marketing pieces, or you market in general. You take a call or you contact somebody and you negotiate a contract, and then you sell the contract. I mean, sometimes we make it more complicated than that.
Yep.
And, there's some art to those different activities, but at the end of the day, you're either you're marketing, you're talking to people, you're negotiating, a contract, and you're selling the contract. And if we can just keep those things in the forefront of our mind, it's not more complicated than that. And sometimes we have a tendency to make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so easy to complicate any of this stuff, but keep it simple, follow your mentor, and it can literally be as simple as that. So do you remember your first deal?
I do. It was
Let's
good
talk
times.
about that.
So I met with his family, and it took me about 4 hours. And the best part about it, I think people will appreciate, sitting down with them. They're at the finish line. They won't commit. And granted, I'd been in thousands of homes sitting down talking about a $10,000 fence or deck project. So I know that that's completely different, but I felt super comfortable. I was having a good time visiting with his family. Again, I don't know that I was using Zig Ziglar's best approaches to negotiations, or even our boy Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Great learning, and I'm a big student of those things. But here I am, a little bit naive about the whole process, trying to negotiate a contract with this family. And they basically got to the point where, yeah, we're good to go, but we have this HOA lien we need to figure out. And I'm like, sweet, well, let's call the HOA. Let's find out how much that is. So we got on the phone with the HOA. So now we remove that obstacle. Then they said, well, we really just want to make sure that my brother-in-law feels this is a good idea. He's kind of our mentor and that type of thing. All right, okay, sweet. Let's get your brother-in-law over here. So the brother-in-law comes over, and they say, we just want to sleep on it type thing. So I'm like, all right. So, because I'm just trying to resolve these concerns. I mean, look, I've got to run around the corner. There's a project I need to go look at real quick. And, I was just going to go to do a drive-by or something from another address I had. I can't remember exactly what I had to do in the area, but I really, I had something about 5-10 minutes away. I said, I'll give you 20-30 minutes. Let me come back. Well, on my way back, about that 20-ish minutes mark, they called me. And it happened that I was on the phone, so I didn't answer it. And I'm like, I don't think calling was a good sign. So I just ghosted the call, and I just went and knocked on the door. Like, oh, they opened it not all the way, and they're like, we actually just kind of still want to sleep on it. I don't think we're ready to make a decision. And I'm like, they're like, we actually tried to call you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did see your missed call. Sorry, I was on another call, and I thought I'd just come over and knock. I'm like, do you mind if I just sit down with you and just, we just button up the couple details, and then we'll sleep on it, talk about it tomorrow type thing. Anyway, fortunately, they let me in again. The brother-in-law is now there. I start building a relationship with him. Before I know it, we're back to the finish line. Hey, what is it going to take to get this done? And it took about 4 hours. And I did have to pull away a little bit, because I did get to the point where it's like, I don't think tomorrow's ever going to happen. They're in a distressed enough situation. They're distressed enough with the decisions that they're making. I don't see them being committed to actually making a decision tomorrow. I think they're going to kick this down the road, and it's going to be just a rat race trying to get a hold of them. So I said, look, I don't mean to be that guy, but today's the day. If you want this offer, we've already come up to your number. If you want this offer, we're going to have to put an agreement together today. I've got other appointments tomorrow, which was true. I just got to know if we're moving forward type thing. And I haven't had to use that technique very often, where it's just kind of like a hard line. But I was okay making a hard line, because I just felt, that was the right thing to do in this situation. They committed. We're super happy, raving fans. They were super glad that the process was as smooth as it is. I made a whopping $10,000 on that transaction.
Hey,
learned a heck of a lot. Was totally brutal. Like I said, it was not less than 4 hours invested at their home. But I'm telling you, that first deal, as most people will attest, is oftentimes the most painful. You learn a lot.
Yeah, well, and shoot though, 4 hours for $10,000. That's a good return on your time.
I'll take it.
So I mean, you kind of hinted towards it, but you said you haven't had to do that a whole lot. What's been the difference of today, where you don't feel like you have to have those, like you called it, a hard line type of sale versus just, meeting someone where they need their number? What do you think the difference is? Was it just the seller, or is it been your approach?
I think it's been my approach. We're big on a collaborative sales approach, meaning that we really spend a ton of time. When we meet with a seller, we invest a ton of time on things not about the house, not about the money, but more about their situation and how we can provide real value. Our mission at Joe Homebuyer is improving lives by delivering creative real estate solutions. It's this idea that we can actually provide them real value. Now, obviously, we're going to make lots of, the goal is to make lots of money in real estate. So can we make lots of money? But at the underlining idea is, before we talk about the offer, before we talk about their house, what is it that is most important to them? Spending a lot of times doing this needs audit. Like, is it cash next week? Is it, letting them leave stuff in the property so that they can make a smooth transition? Is it giving them 30 days in the home after they get cash so that they can make a transition? Is it anything in between? Just these creative ways of finding out what is, in addition to a fair price, what is most important to this family. And a lot of times we find ourselves now where that hard line just isn't necessary, because we build a foundation on the phone. We strengthen that when we're in person. We've really established a clear understanding of what's going to be most helpful. And then we're eliminating the obstacles along the way, these HOA type lien type issues, the tax. We're figuring out those things in the negotiation. And we're getting to the point where it's like, look, at the end of the day, what is it going to take to get this done? And we have a very strategic way through the Joe system of helping nurse people along to the finish line, that we really, as a team, collectively train and support our acquisition managers across the board, as well as the franchise owners, because we understand that, in addition to, just being able to meet with sellers and getting in the living room, what are those extra things we can do to really take it to the finish line? But if I give away any gold nuggets, it's worry about the relationship, worry about solving the problems more than negotiating a specific price. So that's the underlying principle that we operate by. And then obviously we have, different techniques that we like to drive that home. And I try to avoid that pull away, that negative. Obviously I'll give impending events like, hey, I've got other funds I've got to allocate. I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
But I generally don't want to have, I want to have an ongoing relationship with these sellers. And I think sometimes you can stress that if you say it's now or never. So that's something that I happen to use on that first one, but not necessarily a technique that I, encourage people to use.
Gotcha. Okay. So I want to talk about Joe Homebuyer here in a second, but you mentioned something about creative solutions. What's been like one or two deals that you felt like, wow, we had to get super creative on that to make this thing happen? Does anything come to mind?
You have the fun one where we actually shipped somebody's a Hummer, like an old school Hummer, to North Dakota. It was this guy that had traveled from the north tip of North America to the south tip of South America.
Oh my gosh.
All across I don't know how many thousands of miles he'd covered, but it was more of a, it was more than a Hummer to him. And for whatever reason, offering to get that carefully delivered to his property was something that was just unique, but it was, I can't really sell the home until I figure out how I'm getting that Hummer that's not working right now out of the garage. And we were able to, take care of it. So it seems silly, but it was something that provided the seller lots of value. But, I really like the ones where somebody calls us and say, hey, they're totally out of the box. Like, I actually want you to buy my house, but I want to buy it back from you in 30 days, 60, 90 days. And it's like, well, why? Well, I need this much money for this purpose by this day. And I actually have these funds. We actually had a lady that owned her house outright. And she's like, look, I have bad credit, so I can't go get a line of credit against my house, a HELOC. I just need $30,000, buy my house. And we just structured a really creative deal where we bought her house. We became the owner because we wanted to protect ourselves. We didn't just want to put a lien on the property. And she knew that if she didn't buy back, that, we would become the owner of her property. But so that's, way out of the box thinking. We bought her house. She got her cash. She got way more than 30K. She got quite a bit up front. And then after, a few months, she had her option to buy the property back. And so just crazy. Like, you'd never think like, or kind of a hard money loan type person, or kind of like a, whatever it was. But just finding creative ways where people feel like, outside of the box thinking is something
Right.
we, enjoy doing.
Well, I'm interested really quick on that one. Did you treat it more like a hard money loan, or did you just sell it back to her at a higher price 30 days later?
Yeah, we'd had that drawn up very clearly at the beginning, that you understand that this is what it's going to, your buyback price is going to be. This is how much money we're going to make. There was
Got it.
no like areas of confusion. I mean, it was totally
Right.
crystal clear, and she totally owned it, and was okay with exactly how we structured it. And it
How
was a very
interesting.
collaborative agreement. It's like, well, what do you think of this? How do from our end, we want to make sure we're protected, so we want to buy it at a low number, so that if you do just skip town, we're not, So we just had
Yeah.
to account for all those things, and she was open, and we put our minds together, and it worked. So.
How interesting. That's cool. I like it. All right. Well, tell us a little bit more about Joe Homebuyer. How can people get involved with that?
Yes, absolutely. So Joe Homebuyer is our franchise offering. We're at 15 locations now, which we're super excited. We're in North Carolina, Atlanta, Tampa, Vegas, Phoenix, Dallas, Idaho, Utah, Denver. So anyway, we're just really excited about the areas we're in, but still lots of opportunity all throughout the country, including those areas I mentioned. But Joe Homebuyer is what I believe to be what I would have wanted 5 years ago when I first got started. Certainly a mentor was great because I had somebody to say, hey, this is how to go do it. But there were stages where I'm like, all right, well, how do I actually now like scale my business? How do I actually take this to the next level? Like, what are the actual next steps? And Joe Homebuyer, the very design of our franchise model is to cut out those years of learning curve. We've experienced it. We're going to be your partner, so to speak, in your journey in real estate. And we're excited to offer, those that want to get into wholesaling, rehabbing, Airbnbs, or, any form of real estate investing. And they're like, well, the first part of that is I got to find deeply discounted properties. We're very good at finding deeply. We can get your phone to ring. We'll not only master the marketing with you, help you implement a strategy, we'll support you through it, help you scale it over time. But then we're going to teach you how to maximize exit strategies, help support you in that. And obviously everything related to acquisition. That's a major part where I come from the sell side. We put a lot of focus and support both on the franchise side, but also your employees get trained by our system so that they can leverage what we've experienced over the years and they can master that process. So we're really excited about Joe, the direction, traction that our franchisees are getting. And, you can find me at joehomebuyer.com. There's a franchise opportunity section you can read about and reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Stubler. But yeah, that's a little bit about Joe.
That's awesome. So, Mark, thanks so much for jumping in here and sharing more about your story and about Joe Homebuyer. Is there any last words that you have for our audience before we log off?
Well, Kai, I really appreciate it, and I'm encouraged. Anytime I have a chance to be on a podcast like this, I always compliment your listeners for selecting a great podcast to listen to, but also for investing in yourself. Trying to learn more about real estate. You've selected an excellent industry. Real estate is such a special opportunity to make really good money very efficiently. It takes a lot of hustle. It takes a lot of discipline and execution, but done right, you've just done yourself a favor. Stay focused on your journeys, and just encourage you to stay disciplined to that focus, because you've done well with opening the door to real estate. Now it's just making it happen and implementing what you're learning.
Perfect. Well, hey guys, go check out Joe Homebuyer, Homebuyer or Homebuyers. Was it plural?
Homebuyer. Yep.
Homebuyer.com.
joehomebuyer.com.
Perfect. And
Yep.
we'll have that in the show notes. But hey, Mark, thanks so much for being on the show today and helping our audience to conquer the world of investing. We appreciate you. Show notes for this one are going to be fearlesskyle.com/Mark Stubler. Mark is spelled with a K and Stubler is Stubler. I love those stories. Stories is what it's all about, guys. I think anytime that you can feel like a fly on the wall with listening to how a deal is done, even if the seller is standing up and peeing in the corner, that was too good. Anytime you can hear these stories, I just feel like you're one step closer to feeling like you're there, but you have to take that step. There's nothing like actually getting in the room yourself and doing it for yourself, whether it's making mistakes yourself or just experiencing it for yourself. You have to take imperfect action. And that's what I loved about what Mark shared here, just taking that imperfect action. There's nothing that trumps that. You have to make the first step. So go out there, make the first step, get connected with Mark at joehomebuyer.com. We've got it in the show notes as well. Once again, fearlesskyle.com/Mark Stubler. I hope this helped you today to be able to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.